strap yourself in for Keeping It Real with Jack and Raoul.
Welcome back, keepers, and Happy New Year 2025. Year of the snake, year of the wood snake. Did you know that?
I did not know that. Anyway, this is Keeping It Real with Jack and Raoul.
She's so not interested in my snake story.
Whatever. I'm Gabrielle Dolan.
And I'm Jack Phillips. And this episode is a really good one.
Yeah.
It is an edited down version of one of our favourite episodes.
Yeah.
Which is?
Job interviews.
Job interviews.
Yeah. This is actually the most downloaded podcast on YouTube, this one. So, again, this is an edited version while we're taking a break. And if you want to watch the full episode, then that will be in the show notes. So enjoy. Hey, we're going to talk about job interviews today. And again,
good one.
You know, we've had a lot of people request, could you do something on job interviews? Because we're always going for job interviews. And
I reckon 50% of the people I coach are looking for a new job.
Yeah.
And if they aren't at the start of the coaching, they probably will be by the end, because we've spoken about why they're unhappy, or we've spoken about what their perfect life or their aspirations are, and they recognise, it may well be time to start thinking about what's next. So job interviews is a really good topic today.
Yeah. I have so many of my friends or clients ring me at the last minute and they go, last bit of advice.
Yeah.
And I always go, be yourself, because everyone else is taken. And I know
comparison, it's the thief of joy.
Yeah,
Love
it's
it.
a classic Oscar Wilde's, And I do add, unless you're a complete dickhead, then be someone else.
Most people don't admit that they're dickheads or know that they're dickheads. However, my piece of advice is talk less. Most of the people I coach are people that have great vocabularies, that are quite energetic and tend to be talkative. And so that can be a problem when you're being interviewed.
Yeah, especially because you're probably nervous, so you are talking.
You gabble. Yeah,
we will talk about that a little bit later in the episode of what you do when you're nervous. So, Jack, tell us, what is some of the best practice when preparing for a job interview?
Well, the word preparing, you must prepare. This idea you can wing it. Very rarely does that work.
I did that once.
Did it work?
No. I seriously winged it. It was a really senior job at NAB where I was. I thought I was a shoo-in and everyone was telling me I was a shoo-in, and I did not prepare for the job interview at all. And no surprise, I did not get the job.
Did you get some feedback afterwards?
Yeah, and it was some of the comments I'd made, they seemed like, and again, I was probably being a bit funny and off the cuff, and they go, and they gave me an example, like the comment you made compared to the comment that the person got the job, and when they told me what they said, I go, yeah, they prepared. Yeah. They prepared for it.
Preparation is absolutely everything. So how do you prepare? Well, first of all, get the job description and study it, yeah? Highlight keywords, start to think about, and I actually encourage my clients to start writing down while they're looking at the JD and highlighting keywords. Start thinking about your skills and your strengths in relation to this JD. Start thinking about examples. Just jot down bullet points for the minute that you could actually quote or articulate that are related to this job description. So that's a really important one.
And it's not only the skills as well, it's the values.
So
what they're looking for. So you look at a lot of job descriptions and they'll talk about the technical expertise you need, but then they'll talk about values, and it's things like, right, and they use a lot of jargon here, So it'll be things like, you've got to be a team player. So I would always go, what does that mean to you? Yeah. So what does team player mean to you? And be clear on that, because you don't want to be just going in, hey, yeah, I'm a team player.
Yeah, but what does that look like? Yeah. Give an example of that. So prepare really well, study the JD, highlight keywords, pull together your skills, your stories, your examples, and start writing them down. Research the people that are interviewing you. You can find them on LinkedIn generally, or Google their name under the news section, and definitely research the company. I was interviewing for a person in the brand team at a large organisation I worked for in the past, and part of the logo of the brand of this organisation, the colour was blue. And I asked this person, who was apparently an expert brand marketer, what it was about this particular brand that had drawn him to this role. What did he like about it? And he said, the colour blue. And I thought he was joking, and I went, and what do you like about it? And he looked at me and said, the colour blue. So that is probably not enough research done on the organisation to convince me.
A red flag.
That is a red flag about a logo that is blue.
Yeah.
So research people in the company and prepare your stories. And look, it's prepare.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how we prepare stories, because there is a system here. Tell me about some stories when it comes to preparing for an interview.
So years ago, about 10 years ago, I would have quite a lot of people ask me to coach them on job interviews. And they were asking me specifically on stories, because that's what I do, storytelling. And I actually decided to write a little book on it, as you do, because I thought, if I'm going to help one person, I could help a whole lot of people by writing a book. So the book's called Storytelling for Job Interviews, and we will put the link to that in the show notes, and you can download it for free.
So it's an ebook.
It's an ebook.
So I could share it with my clients.
You could.
Why
you
haven't you
could.
told me
Well,
about
it's a
this
paper
before?
book. You can buy it for about $25, or you can buy it as an ebook for about $8, or you can go to the show notes and get it for free.
Because keepers.
We like to give gifts to our keepers.
There we are. There's a reward for being a
loyal
keeper.
keeper. You get a free book. And absolutely download it and share it widely. Share it widely. Send it to your kids or your team, whoever. But I talk about that as in the 4 different types of stories you should share. So exactly what you were saying before, what are the skills, what are the expertise, the experience they're looking for, what are the values? And the 4 types of stories, they all start with L, because I do like a good palette when it comes to. The first one is literal. So literally, if they want project management skills,
right,
you would give a literal example of where you've managed a project, similar, and you would provide that.
That's aligning it back to the JD, isn't it?
Going at those specific skills.
Literal.
Now, you might not have ever managed. So the other one is like story. So like I've managed projects that is sort of like not exactly the same, but it's like. So it's a complete literal, or it's not exactly, but it's like it. Another one is a lateral story. And what I mean by this, and this is really important if you're changing industries.
Right.
Because you might go, I've actually never managed a project or a large team, but I organised the fate for my school thing, or I've organised a big fundraiser. So it's not a technical project management. Well, but it is when you look at all the skills required to, say, manage a fate or organise a fate for your school, you're doing all the same things.
I tell my clients, which is exactly lateral, I say connect the dots. So look at something you've done, and it may have nothing to do with the role, but the same skills are transferable and apply. So that's lateral. I like that.
So we got literal, we got lateral, we got a like, so like for like, and then we got a learn. Stories where you learnt something
on the job
are really valuable. And this is all linking it back to the skills and values. So, there could be around values around being collaborative. You could actually share a story when you weren't collaborative.
Sure.
And the lessons you learned from that and the critical learnings you had. And then people sort of go, oh, this is really important to them, especially if it was something that happened years ago.
I really like that, because we all know that if you are interviewing a number of people, say you've got to do 10 or 15 interviews, or even a short list of 5 people, by the time they've all finished it over a couple of days or whatever, it's hard to start to remember who stood out. Somebody who says, I'm going to tell you about a time that it didn't work, or what I learned from it and what I've done since, is more likely to compel and engage you. So the importance of stories to stand out.
Yeah. So the importance of stories, the importance of personal stories, the importance of personal stories of showing vulnerability of stuff you've learned. And I think what you don't want to do when you go into a job interview is just repeat your resume.
No, okay, they can read that.
They've read your resume. You've actually got a job interview because you've ticked off the basic stuff that's in your resume. So don't repeat your resume. This is where stories are so powerful, because they're not in your resume.
Correct.
It's getting you an opportunity to share your values, but it makes you memorable. They will remember it, especially, they're not just interviewing you, they're interviewing a whole heap of others. And it brings in, and we often say the term, your unique value proposition.
I love that. We've got to talk about that.
Based on your experience, based on your other jobs, based on your values, based on your learnings, that is uniquely you.
Absolutely. We do some work when I'm coaching people around interviews, around let's come up with a tagline that actually talks about you and how you are different. Yeah, so it might start out really creative. You know, I had one awesome client call herself a unicorn wrangler. You know, she was the leader of a creative team, and it was wrangling unicorns. You know, now
you know what I love about that? The fact that if you're going for a job that's head of creative or whatever, you'd want to be bloody creative.
You're
and coming up with really weird stuff like that. It shows you're creative.
I once went for a job and it was in advertising, and there are two types of people in advertising. There are the suits who look after the accounts and the clients and service them, and then there are the creatives who come up with the ads. And it said suit required, so I sent in a navy blue suit as my application with the letter in the pocket. I got the job because I'm working in a creative industry.
Yeah.
I need to be a bit creative, even though I am a suit. So there are different ways that you can stand out with your unique value proposition.
And that is being you, being yourself.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, I haven't gone for a job interview for 20 years, but every time I speak to a new client, it's pretty much a job interview.
A job interview.
It is very much a job interview. And I am, my biggest thing is be yourself.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, because I want to attract the tribe. I want to attract
the right people.
And
there's no point wasting your time or somebody else's time by attracting the wrong crowd. Okay, so you've got your stories prepared. I love that. Lateral, literal, learn. Like, you know what your unique value proposition is. Now let's really get into what are the questions you're going to be asked. Anticipate what it is they're going to ask you. Because if you can prepare for those, then you are 90% there.
Yeah.
Right? Because it becomes familiar and you're less nervous.
Yeah. And you might go, you can't anticipate every question they're going to ask. But if you've studied the job description and they've got project management, I'll go back to that, they're going to ask you about projects you've worked on.
So be ready.
So you're ready for that. So preparing for questions.
And anticipate them. So when I work with my clients, I say, okay, let's think about some of the questions they're likely to ask you. You know, the first and most obvious, what is it about this role or this organisation that attracted you to it?
Okay, so you think that's an obvious question?
I think that is an obvious question. That's one that I would always ask.
Yep.
Don't say because I like the logo and it's blue. Again, demonstrate your understanding and knowledge of the organisation. What is it about it that you like? I've always loved the brand Nike. It's a brand I wear. It's a brand I trust. Why wouldn't I want to work for it? You know, as an example.
Yeah.
Or my skills are so aligned. It feels like the job description was written for me. But I also love the leadership here. Show that you've done the research. Show that you understand the organisation.
And it's also, I think what you're saying too, is it's almost showing passion for the new job.
Correct.
Because you probably don't want to be going, I'm just here because my old job was crap.
That's right. Or I just need a job and I need to pay the rent and I don't care which one I get. Look, you know, whilst Raoul said be yourself right at the front, I think it's really important to also be strategic and thoughtful about what it is that is likely to help you be remembered and get the role. Yep. So prepare and anticipate the questions you'll be asked. Another question they're going to ask you for sure. So tell me about you and your strengths, yeah? Tell me what you're good at. So go in prepared.
How do you answer that? And in fact, I've had other people say, how do you answer that without, you know, bragging about yourself? And I go almost, you know what? In a job interview, I think it's okay.
You are marketing yourself.
Yeah, you are.
But there is another way.
Yes,
Raoul.
tell us.
The other way is to actually get some feedback from colleagues and your leader and direct reports before you're going for an interview. Tell me what are my strengths. Tell me what are my areas of development. Then when somebody says, tell me about your strengths, you can say, thank you for asking. I just recently sought some feedback. This is not my opinion of myself, but actual fact based on others that experience me and observe me in the workplace. Here's what I'm good at.
Yeah.
Now that shows a couple of things. It shows self-awareness. It shows that you are open to and actually solicit feedback. And it reinforces this isn't your ego and you talking about yourself when others might not agree. It's actually fact.
I think you even mentioned that in a previous episode. A really good way to talk about your strengths is to say, well, this is what other people have told me. And I know I do that when, you know, clients go, so what makes you different to other storytelling providers? And I go, well, I can tell you clients all the time tell me it's the most practical training they've ever done in their life. So, I mean, I'm always bringing
You've got an
it
example
in.
to
Clients have always told me
recommend or
this. So
refer.
that's another good in job interviews. It was like my previous managers have always said, I'm very good at this. I'm totally reliable around this. So
Like it.
bringing that in is a really good way to get you've got to be marketing yourself.
Totally. So not only will they ask you about your areas, your strengths, they're going to say also, what about your weaknesses? I can't stand the word weakness. We are not kittens. No one is weak. It's an area of development. It's something that you need to get better at.
I hate that question. I reckon it's a dumb, lazy
Well, it is,
question.
but they're going to ask you. So be prepared for it. So what are your areas of development? You can, again, I've sought feedback on that. And just of most recent times, I am aware that I have high energy and I have to manage that energy. Here's what I do to do that. I've been told that I'm not always an active listener, Raoul.
And I'm not doing anything to change that. No.
You do you, baby. With areas of development, make sure whatever you choose to share and be prepared to share is one that is easily rectified so that you could do something to change it, or you've already started doing that learning or that development. So it demonstrates that you're actually making an effort to be better.
Yeah, I agree. It's making something like you see a lot of jobs today, and they first of all they're listing all the technical requirements.
The
Like
what.
you got to good at
There's
you
what
got to
and
be
how,
good at the
right?
Microsoft Office. You got to be good at Excel, and they list all this technology because there's so much technology. Yeah. If you do say one of your weaknesses around something you can easily learn, like you can sort of go, oh look, I've used PowerPoint, but I'm not like I don't use it all the time. And they would probably go, oh, that's okay.
That's right. That's something that's so easily fixed.
You probably don't want to be going, oh, my greatest weakness is that I'm totally unreliable.
Yeah.
Like, so because that's like, then it was like.
Yeah, that's
like,
almost an attitude.
Okay, it's being honest, but don't.
Too honest.
Yeah, don't be
No.
too honest.
But what you're talking about there is the what, yes? So the what and the how is also what I coach my clients on when we're going for interviews. So what you do, but then there's the style and the behaviours, which is the how. And be very clear on both of those. Very, very important.
Preparing for questions, anticipate them.
Anticipate what
and
you
I reckon
expect.
you said a good thing before is like study the job description, but speak to people and go, speak to people that actually interview people and go, what, like you, like that's a great question. You go, well, I would always ask this. I would always, so you're getting a few of those options.
Isn't that the third eye that you talk about, which I love, that example of
it is.
looking beyond.
Looking beyond that. Have good questions yourself.
Totally.
So my kids are at the age they're going for job interviews and I go, you've got to have good questions. When you get to the end and they go, do you have any questions? Don't say no.
No.
You've got to have a good
worse.
question.
It shows you're not curious. It shows that you're not prepared. I couldn't agree more. And you can come up with so many good questions. So many good questions. What would make the person you choose in this role? What are you looking for when it comes to success? What's something within the first 6 months you would expect this person to have achieved in this role?
Yeah.
And then you can turn that around and talk to certain examples of that. I'd love to understand the culture here. Can you tell me the last time somebody was promoted here, what sort of learning and development support was given to them?
Some other ones I reckon is, when people leave, what do they normally leave for? Should you ask about salary? There's always questions. When does salary come up, or would you know that?
Well, certainly very rarely in the first interview.
Yeah.
That would be a bit presumptuous. There might be a salary range within the job description, but salary usually is one that comes up in a second or subsequent interview.
Yep.
And that's one that you can address then.
What would your advice be on if you were wanting to have a bit of flexibility, like work, or even now, like work from home? I reckon the conversations about how many days you're expected in the office would come up really quickly in job interviews these days.
I think more and more organisations and companies are being more transparent about that. This is a hybrid role. This is a 3-day in the office role. So that's being quite overt. If it's not, you should always ask that. Is there flexibility in this role?
Yeah.
And if so, what does that look like?
Yeah.
If there isn't, can I understand why not? It's important you understand
Yeah,
these things.
that's a good question.
I mean, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing
Absolutely.
you. Thank you very much. This may not be the right fit. Do not pursue it if it's not. No, there's no flexibility. Yes, we expect you to be in the office 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. 5 days a week. then if that's not going to work for you, and quite frankly, it's not going to keep talent, you're probably going to be working with a pack of turkeys, then bail out, opt out. Thank you very much for your time. There's no point us wasting each other's time. I would require flexibility.
Yeah. And I think the younger generation, and good on them for doing this, are stating that it's, it's almost like a non-negotiable to them.
Correct.
And if you're interviewing people and going, well, they should just be happy to have a job when I was, I'm like, my God, get over that. Alex, again, my daughter went for a job interview. This was a couple of years ago. It's like, and she asked about flexibility because she was still at uni. It was only a part-time job. And she asked about she needs to have Tuesday afternoon off because that's when she needs to be at uni. And they just said, we can't guarantee that. And so she came out, I go, how did it go? She went, all right. She went, all right, but I'm not going to take it because they couldn't guarantee me flexibility on Tuesday.
Same thing happened with Louis.
Like with me, I'd be going, but you know what, I get good on them.
Same thing happened with Louis. And it was a very prestigious car brand, a European car brand, who had offered him a sales role at a very young age. He's very knowledgeable about cars. Great experience. And they said, no, you'll be working every weekend. He said, I play footy on Saturdays. They said, not anymore. He said, I'll be playing footy. Thank you for your time. And good on him. Totally get it. Yeah.
So have good questions.
Have good questions.
And I think what you said, don't be presumptuous and ask too many questions like that at the start, but
have questions. Have at least two good questions to ask at the end. And wait, you might want to make sure that you can ask a question. Often there's a lot of questions targeted to you if you're being interviewed, but you might say, I've got a couple of questions. I'd love some time to ask those, just so that you don't run out of time.
Yep.
The other one is being asked a question you can't answer. And it might be because you're nervous, or it might be that you don't actually know the answer. Never let this stump you. No. You're a human being, not a robot. So I always prepare my clients when we're doing interview prep and we're going through this and doing role play to say, if you can't answer a question, very confidently look the person in the eye, I'm looking at you, Keehlan, and say, that's not something I can even answer at the moment. I can't think of my answer, but I will come back to that. Can we move to the next question, please? That's impressive.
Yeah.
If at the end you still can't answer the question and they come back to it, say, I'll come back to you on it.
Yep.
I still can't answer that. It's absolutely not a crime not to answer a question.
No. And I think sometimes you can also say, that is a seriously good question. No one has ever asked me that before.
And I'm going to need to think about that.
And I reckon I need some time to warrant a good answer on that.
And I love the fact that somebody might be thinking and strategic and thoughtful rather than just impulsive. So I think that's a good one. All right.
Okay.
I think we've got some good tips there.
Yeah, I think we've got some good tips. I think the one thing we did want to talk about nerves. When you get nerves.
Yes. Most people get nervous going into an interview because it's a little bit scary because it's uncertain. You don't know what they're going to ask. You don't know what they're going to be like.
Yep.
So it is easy to be nervous.
Yep.
If you are aware that you get nervous or that you are feeling nervous, ask for a glass of water. There is something about having a distraction, something that's going to stop you and maybe help you have a sip. Try and say less so you don't gabble.
Yes. Yeah, you do.
Be very conscious. Say what I need to say and then stop.
Yep.
If they want more information, they will ask me. Don't feel I need to over-explain. Say up front, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit excited. I'm really keen for this job.
Yeah. Let's get to the tips. So number one, absolutely study the job description.
Prepare.
Highlight keywords, key skills, values. If there's values in there like strategic thinker or team player or collaborative, know what that means to you and really think about it.
Research the people that are going to interview you. If you don't know who they are, ask. And the company, know what their quarterly results are, know what their strategy is, know who the CEO is, have that knowledge.
Yep. Think of example stories that you can use to demonstrate the skills and demonstrate the values. If you think, I don't have that exact experience, go outside the square a bit. Think of stuff that's like it or lateral.
I like that.
You can never have too many stories.
Correct.
Like the idea is, if you've shared every story that you've prepared for, you probably haven't prepared for enough stories.
Like it.
And I'd also, and this is going to your talk less, just give the bare minimums of the story. If they want to know more about it, they will ask more about it. Or often say is I could go on. Do you want me to go on or that? So that's
God, can she go on?
Prepare for the questions.
Absolutely. Anticipate the types of questions they're going to ask. There's always the obvious ones. It doesn't matter if you haven't gotten every question ready, but certainly anticipate the strengths, the areas of development. Give me examples of when you've done this particular behaviour or you've got experience around this particular strength. So prepare for those things.
Have some good questions yourself, and have quite a few good questions, because sometimes you might, if you've only got one or two questions and they've answered them, then you've got no questions.
That's right.
So have a few good questions, and just even have a backup question like, what's the process from here or whatever.
That's a good one.
No nerves are part of it. That's fine. They're part of it. They'll be expecting it, so don't worry about it.
I was going to also add, make sure you dress for the role too. In fact, you're better to overdress than you are underdress. Yeah?
Overdress.
Professionally. Now, if it's for a creative, role in an ad agency, then obviously dress appropriately for that. You want to fit the culture. You don't want them to think this person doesn't get it. But you are always better to overdress and be very professional.
Yeah, always best to just overdress a little bit.
And over-prepare.
Over-prepare.
Happy interviewing and keeping it real with
Jack and Rao.
You've been listening to another episode of Keeping It Real with Jack and Rao. If you like what you've heard, don't forget to tell others about it and give a 5-star review. They may seem confident, but they really are sensitive 5-star needy souls. Yeah, right. Keeping It Real, created by Jack Phillips and Gabriel Dolan. Produced by Keehlan Ferrari-Brown. And this really real voiceover, spoken by Richard Phillips.